Well, hello and welcome to the Small Town Big Business Podcast. Thanks for joining us here at the Citadel Building. I am Russell Williams, one of your co-hosts.
I'm Jennifer Olson, also a co-host.
And I'm Deb Barnett.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the special holiday edition, Year of the End edition of Small Town Big Business. We want to thank our sponsors first.
And our sponsors are Arcadia Wealth Group, Banterra Bank, Black Diamond Harley-Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Southern Illinois Now, Swinford Media Group, Union Street Arts, and the Watermark Auto Group Foundation.
And our topic for today.
Our topic for today is a recap of the year and all our favorite things. This kind of started last year when Jennifer and I were here in the studio and we had some guests and we had some time after. And I think it was just sort of an impromptu, let's just talk about the year, and absolutely loved it.
So this is our second annual.
So this is our second annual.
End of the year show,
yes,
right?
Yes. I mean, it was such a great experience for Jennifer and I think you were out of town then, Russ. Yeah. But the listeners enjoyed it, so let's do it again.
I'm excited.
I think it's just super important, and it seems like the right time of the year to kind of just look back and reflect and, celebrate victories and acknowledge the great experiences that we had.
That's awesome. So what was one of your number one or memorable shows or events that's happened this year tied to the Small Town Big Business Podcast?
Mm-hmm. I think for me, it was the 100th episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only because of the sort of goal that was met, or I don't even know that it was a goal necessarily, but a milestone that was met that a lot of podcasts don't. I think some don't even get past 3 podcasts, and most don't get past 50 episodes. So to get to 100, it was quite a milestone. But also to do that live and bring in folks who had been on the podcast and just relive those stories. And of course, bring Allison back, who was one of the original co-hosts. That to me was one of my favorites.
I think, this year I really noticed the spirit of collaboration and people naming people on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we really have to prompt them to say, okay, when you say special thanks to, and you just give a first name, who are you talking about and what's their business? Because I think we've created a community that feels like family, and people just assume, when I say Jennifer, that who I'm talking about. But just so much collaboration and support, business to business support, just really stands out to me.
Yeah. I think for me overall, it's been the wide range of people that we've had and how much talent that we have in this area. We try to focus not just on the square, downtown Marion, Illinois, and we've stretched, Murfreesboro, Alto Pass a little further than we maybe did in the first season, and we're always trying to go a little bit further. But like Daniel Deans, I remember that recording from the Clothier in Murfreesboro. Just what a smart person that wanted to serve the community, in particular veterans, and how that all got started, and the passion he had for something specific to serve veterans, and how that developed into Daniel Deans clothing store and continues to develop. They were talking about moving into a new building when we recorded them too. So, and I really love that part, is people that will share, like, this is where I started, but we're about to do whatever it is, like move into a larger square foot building or try something new. I just love that. It inspires me every time we do a recording.
Yeah, and speaking of inspiring, we also featured a nonprofit, so Sam Cooner with Inevitability. That was one that I think I asked just a few questions, and Sam took it and ran with it, and I was just in awe. I was inspired just sitting and listening, but then listening to it back. Yeah. I told Sam afterwards, I said, you need to be speaking on a national stage. I mean, it was that inspiring. Yeah. And then, of course, the work he's doing, not just here in Southern Illinois, but around the country, is so impactful.
Yeah. I got to use a video clip of that recording with Sam at a youth rally that I spoke at, and it was in Troy, Illinois. And so that was really cool to be so inspired that I wanted to share that with about 200 youth that were in the room. So that was pretty so cool. Good. Yeah.
I think our guest did a great job this year of bringing specifics as far as naming books or coaches or programs that they are taking advantage of. I think it's easy for us to think, well, certain industries, they probably don't really take advantage of that, whether that's auto repair or the guy who has the pizza restaurant or the guy who's installing Christmas lights. We say, well, they're probably just so busy doing their job. They probably don't embrace self-improvement and leadership. But we had so many people from various categories of business that, they are using coaches, mentors, they are doing self-improvement, and they're reading great books.
Yeah.
I will also add that related to the podcast, I mentioned that most podcasts don't get past 50 episodes. And I was reading that part of the reason why some podcasts fail is just lack of consistency. And so I would just like to give a shout out to the person sitting just a few feet away from us, but not behind the mic, Luke O'Neill with Union Street Arts, and how, even with the 100th episode, I think someone asked, how does this all happen and that sort of thing. And I said, really, we show up, we have the conversations, and then Luke does everything in the background to make it look good, sound good, and get out on time. So without him, that consistency would be super difficult. So
no doubt. There's a lot of commitment there. Appreciate it very, very much. Gifts and talents by Luke to make this happen.
Absolutely.
So, I know people, other podcasts, they record more often and release more often than we do, and they have, maybe more specific subjects or a variety of different. I think it is that consistency, that dedication of making sure that you do it and you do it well, and that's really easy for us to do because Luke does his job so well and offers great products and video.
And people can count on it. So every other week or every week, and we've kind of done both, right? People can count on it. They can listen to it about a half an hour in most cases, whether it's in the car or at home or walking the dog or whatever that is. It's just great to not only get those tips, like you said, Jennifer, but to really hear from our businesses in the area and get to know the people behind the businesses.
Well, when we had talked for, I think, the first year that we did the recordings, that we'd love to have one place where everybody could go find all the recordings. And so now we do have that. If folks go to EThOs, marion.org/podcasts, then all the episodes are there up to close to 100. We don't have them all loaded because we've got more than 100 episodes now, but we need to catch up. And so, but Luke is the one who provided for that, and also Haley Ritter, who was our social media manager here at EThOs. And so it's about a team.
It is.
I would not be able to do this by myself. I don't think any one of us who had started this could have done it by themselves at all. It is a team. And so that's the part people don't see, I guess, because they see our faces and they see our guests. But that is true for, if you're going to do something successful, if you're going to do something with longevity, something of worth and value, you've got to bring other people in that are like-minded and have some wonderful gifts that you may not have. They can play off those. Yeah. So that's awesome.
And isn't that a great common theme among all our guests? We always ask about what kind of support they have. And Jennifer, I know that's a question you often ask because that's so important to you and that collaborative piece. But
it is. And, it's probably the former commercial lender coming out in me that I know relationships, whether that's your family, your spouse or partner, whoever, they can see you running your own business as either a debit or a credit, and a positive experience or something that takes away or causes distress. And if you don't have a family backing you, or you don't have a loved one backing you, number one, it's a lonely place to be. And number two, it will break down those relationships. So I'm always want to hear about people's back and home team support.
Yeah, that's so good. One thing, back to the podcast and the guests that we've had, I've been excited by some other interviews that we've had is particularly entrepreneurs that are doing their own video and they're doing their own social media, and they're doing it really, really well. In particular, I'm thinking of Brandy Renshaw and how involved Brandy has been in her YouTube videos. And if you subscribe to her YouTube videos, you get to see her in the field because she's the farm girl, and she's doing it's really well done and great personality. on the farm, but she's an entrepreneur. We've had somebody recently that we've interviewed that has come from her incubator down in Anna, the Casper House, and with her own business. That person is, do you remember her name?
Oh my gosh.
I put you on the spot.
Oh, yeah. Oh gosh. It's Roni Pony is the business.
Roni Pony's business, yeah.
And
We just recorded it, yeah.
I know. Oh,
We'll come back. We'll fill this in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
But anyway,
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, yeah.
And this is where I'm getting confused because it's not Behringer like the wine. It's like
Behringer.
Behringer.
There you go.
Yes.
We came up with it. Awesome.
Jacqueline.
There we go. See, it takes a
Behringer.
team.
I won't
Yes.
do
It
it.
takes a
I won't do that to you again. But that being able to have multiple businesses in the case of Brandy, and also great marketing and YouTube. It's like, okay, we're going to look at our guest for something that we want to aspire to be also. So, yeah, I think we're becoming better and better at what we do, even in our individual careers, because we are interviewing people that are go-getters, successful, smart, and talented.
Definitely.
And just, no matter, I said this at the 100th, so it probably sounds like an echo, but no matter how much you think, oh, I know about that business or I know that business owner, there's always a surprise. It's just, for me, when I have that day where I see this on the calendar, I think, man, I don't really have time to go do that. It's time. It is time consuming, and I just get so energized by the surprises that come up in the interview that I always leave here saying, oh gosh, this is one of my favorite things.
Yes. And that's true of whether we're interviewing John Hill from Benny's or John Brown from John Brown's on the Square or Matt Throgmorton from Biassy Music Store. Like, I know them, but I don't really know them.
Right.
Like, they have so much experience and history of what they did before they started businesses, how they got into the business that they have now, how they've changed that business to be successful. The COVID piece had always, been consistent in our interviews, and they've brought it up as much as we have, but how they've survived fires and how they've survived prior owners that may not have gotten it right. And I think that's just awesome that we've been able to learn from those two. And I have a deeper appreciation for those business owners.
Absolutely.
Another one I can think of that was very inspiring for me was Parker and Austin Flam. They are just good guys that have taken over what did we say it was, 100-and-something-year-old Flam Orchard business, and multi-generational. And these are two young guys, cousins that are looking at the future and how the industry has changed in their lifetime and how they're looking at how it's going to change. And then they ended up coming to one of our events, the Work Happy Happy Hour. So I got to see, they came to our 100th episode, right? So that was encouraging too, because they were excited about their recording and what we were doing here. That's one I will always remember too, because I think they're just inspiring folks. You see those people on the street, you may not know who they are. You see them on a farm, you don't hear their story. So it's great to spend some time with them and hearing what they do, and they do it so well.
Yeah. When I think about the next generation and people having to pivot and evolve, I'm always amazed you always think, well, all the inspiration comes from young people, and they certainly are making their mark and doing some progressive things on the farm. But also, I'm just impressed by people that are my age or older. We won't say what that is, but people that are more near retirement who are either evolving an existing business or they're starting their chapter 2. I think about so many people that we had, particularly females, that they were a stay-at-home mom, or they were supportive of a spouse's career, partner's career, and then boom, when they came out, in their 40s or 50s with a business from scratch, they have really hit it hard, and that's impressive, because I'll be honest, I'm like, when can I retire?
Yeah. Well, you'll be doing something else after that.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. Ken Anderson from WBVN was another one, memorial from this last year, memorable. I didn't know Ken very well. I knew who he was. I had a lot of friends that knew him very well, but had never sat down and talked with him. And I was just taken back with the history, his knowledge, and how it was just like that for him. And it happened 25 years ago.
Right.
And how he's been really a cement and foundation for this community and the Christian music community for such a long, long time. Many of the shows that happen at the Marion Civic Center are because of WBVN's relationship and our local Civic Center, Cultural Arts Center, Marion. And so, yeah, Ken was one that I really fed off of, and I love that interview very well. I still speak about that one with my friends all the time.
Oh, he's amazing. And I think we also had some firsts. So the day today, when we're recording this episode, our look back is the day that our very first winery guests that episode is being released. So Brett and Regina Morrison with Starview Vineyards. That was a great one. And just seeing, again, transplants to the area and have just become part of the fabric of our community in Southern Illinois, and really just create a spot for locals and to connect, but also visitors, guests, and shared their story and kind of gave us a look behind the scenes. You know, you might just go get a glass of wine and not think so much about it, but Brett really kind of shared what goes on behind the scenes there.
Yeah. Now, you two interviewed Kyle Drone from Dinger Bats.
Yes.
I wasn't here that day. Tell
That
me a
was
little
fun.
bit about that one. Do you remember?
Gosh,
yeah.
I mean, I've known Kyle. I knew his dad in his business kind of when Kyle was getting started. So that was fun because I don't think he knew that I had been there in some of the early days. So as much as I like getting surprised by what our guest said, that was kind of fun because he was like, "Oh my gosh, you were in that house," you know,
Talk
when
about
we
a bat
were
making party, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they
Or
were
bat shipping party.
Yes, bat shipping party about them literally had bats hang drying the stain and paint on hangers in a coat closet. I mean, it was just, so that was super fun.
That was
It's such a proud moment, you know, to have that kind of business here in Southern Illinois. And as Kyle mentioned, they've had offers, in fact, folks trying to attract them to other areas of the country, but this is home.
yeah,
And this is where they choose to stay.
yeah.
I'll tell you an episode that terrified me that turned out great was when I walked into the room for the J effect. Kids don't like me. Sometimes the feeling is mutual. And so when they had their whole brood, I was like, oh my gosh, how is this going to go?
That's funny.
How is the sound going to work? I was so nervous about it. And it turned out to be just a beautiful, beautiful episode. And honestly, it's them. It's who they are. And their family is such a part of their business and the kidpreneur part of it. And I feel like to have isolated the parents off to tell the story would have not done that business justice.
Yeah.
I mean, it was supposed to be that way. And so, I don't know. I went from very, very nervous to very just, I don't know, in awe, in amazement.
See, I'm thinking we should do a spin-off podcast, something like Small Town, Big Business, Bigger Families.
Yeah, family
There you go.
edition,
There you
kid
go.
edition. Oh, there's all kinds of possibilities.
Families are really important, no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
Can we delve a little bit into, right? That's the right word, delve? A little bit into,
Well, dive.
delved
Yeah.
into what we do outside the podcast. Because I think at the end of the year, it'd be cool to talk about some of the eventful things that are happening in our lives, and whether it's family or friends or it's our careers. You want to start? What's going on
Sure.
in 2024 and
my
looking forward to
goodness.
2025?
Well, so Southern Illinois now, of course, for those who don't know, we do economic development for the 17 southernmost counties. So that includes, of course, Williamson County, Marion. Then we have great partners like Jennifer and others around to help do that. But 2024 has been a big year. And I'll phrase it like this. There are three main goals: business growth and development, so attracting new business and also making sure our existing businesses are strong and growing, making sure we have the workforce for those businesses, but then also marketing the region. And I think a couple things that I'll highlight in marketing the region, our Now magazine has reached people throughout the region, all around the country. We continue just to get lots and lots of great feedback, not only about the print copy, but it's also available digitally, because it helps share the collective story of Southern Illinois. And people here in the region are reading those features and saying, wow, I had no idea this was happening. It's like building this renewed sense of pride and optimism in our region. But then those outside of our region are saying, I had no idea, because they think of Illinois and they automatically think the city of Chicago. And they many times don't realize that there's this amazing gem here in Southern Illinois with so many tremendous assets. So I would say the Now magazine, but on the attracting new business to the area piece, and Jennifer, will know this, so many times when you're developing that pipeline, it seems like nothing's happening on the outside. Like from the outside looking in, it seems like nothing's happening because you can't talk about those things, right? But let me tell you, the pipeline is so full right now, and it's like a water hose that's getting ready to burst out the other end. Right. So in 2025, we're very excited about some things that will be coming up, and just really throughout the region. Yeah. And certainly here in Marion, so much going on.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah. How about you, Jennifer?
What do I do?
Director of Business Development, Marion, Illinois.
So no week is ever the same. No day is ever the same, because I do just a lot of talking to people, coaching, brainstorming, connecting. I've had to learn that not everybody knows who to talk to about this or that. And so I take it for granted. But, when we can connect people, do grant writing, special projects, just a little bit of whatever's needed to make Marion a better place than it was yesterday, and to help our businesses either start, grow, succeed, just whatever it takes to help them find success. So it's a little bit of everything.
Was there anything this past year in 2024 citywide that it was a leap forward?
So, like Deb said, these things are a slow roll. Yeah. Actually, it's been an interesting year for me personally, because 3 substantial projects that I worked on in my last role as Director of Economic Development at Greater Egypt are finally getting either open, breaking ground. So I've been.
And those were years in the making, right?
Well, this in January I'll be here 3 years, wow. And so. I know that the seeds that we plant today are really, I may not, see them. It may be under a different administration. At that point, it could be anything, but it's making progress in the right direction. As far as this year, I made a little printout here from Jeff Sigler, Revitalize or Die, who's one of my favorite sort of leaders in economic development. And he talks about the stages of revitalization, and I didn't want to mess them up since I'm quoting him, but number 1 is the apathy stage. Number 2 is the brave few stage. 3 is the turning point stage. 4 is he calls it the I told you stage, which I don't really love that phrase, but it's really changing minds, new narratives, bustling activity, emerging leaders, and then finally the vibrant stage. And I feel like that is where we are in downtown finally after 3 years. Yeah. People who are calling for space on the square proper are really 3 years too late, and that's a good problem to have. We are super close to our star bond issuance that will really start to see some things moving out around Oasis. Most people don't know the mall's pretty much gutted and ready to go. So as soon as those dollars start flowing, you'll start to see the build back. And that's what people want to see. They're like, it looks blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, until you see the build back, it's going to just be what it is. And so people say, well, what's next for Marion? And there are still plenty of opportunities between downtown and the other side of the interstate in the commercial zone for things to happen. There are opportunities for people to be that early believer, that early investor, and those are really along our Main Street and 13 or DeYoung. And so I really think Main Street will show itself to be the place for professional offices, whether that's dentists, attorneys, architects. I think insurance, you'll really see that area come up as the nice place to build a nice office. Yeah. And 13 DeYoung, honestly, between the interstate and downtown, it really needs a reinvention. Yeah. There's shopping centers and offices that, either have not evolved to look modern or, post-COVID are empty because people are not coming back at that percentage of occupancy. So I think it could be a clean slate of anything that you can imagine. I'm not against it being housing. We need housing for workforce. Could you put a child care center in one of those older strip centers? I mean, those are two legs of the stool that we need to support workforce. So I think the sky is the limit for somebody who's creative, who says, okay, I'll go first. Yeah. I'll be a domino. I'll kick it and, we'll see what happens. Yeah. But I think just because things are either filling up or already kind of have a plan doesn't mean that there's still not opportunity. And you could say that for every community in Southern Illinois. Yeah. Murfreesboro is doing great things. Anna Jonesboro is looking super sharp. But there's still opportunities in those towns and in every town.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sorry for the monologue.
No,
I get preaching and I can't help myself.
It's all good
That's
stuff.
what this is about. That's
what
awesome.
about you, Russ?
Well, to jump off that platform, so I've been involved in community development the last really 3 to 4 years now. And 3 years ago, December of 21 is when we had the ribbon cutting here at EThOs. And for those that don't hear it on the podcast, we are in the Citadel building. So it's a 5-floor neoclassical building that's been here on the square since 1914. Started as the Marion State and Savings Bank. Then later on in this history, from 1940 to 1970, it was known as the Hotel State. And then after that, one of the owners named it the Citadel building. Citadel meaning a fortress that it protects and overlooks the city. And so was invited to be part of this redevelopment of a property that has sat empty, similar to other businesses on our square, really since the 1970s, 1980s, when small communities changed with mall development. And so the building owner, Watermark Alder Group Foundation, has a vision of restoring this building, and so was invited to become part of that, and that's been quite the privilege. But it's been a process, right? As you said earlier about planting seeds, I realize now that it wasn't just like, oh, this is going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years, is that we had to plant some seeds, and our hope is that we will get to see what's developed in this building, but maybe it's just for our children or grandchildren, and I'm okay with that too. So this past year, we've ran great business programs. As you know, we're a small business incubator, also helps businesses scale and grow, and nonprofits also. So we worked with a USDA grant this past year and the year before, offering programs, coaching, advisement, have some great community leaders. The model is to use our own community business folks in order to teach and advise other folks that are starting businesses. So we've offered those classes and some training outside the building too. Had some great partners in the community this past year. Kokopelli Event Center offering our monthly Lunch and Learn program there, and then Celebrations Event Center offering our Work Happy Hour, which is our networking and professional development event, along with Joe Shinkuski. So he's been a great partner too in doing that. But we are about to start something really, really big that we've been working on for such a long time. In fact, Jennifer, I believe, is the person that wrote the application for this new grant.
Full circle.
Full circle.
With my team, we had a great group of planners.
When you were with Greater Egypt
Yes.
Regional Planning Commission. And so that was accepted. The grant was received back 2 years ago in 2022, and we are now starting construction on the Citadel building. to turn it into more of an economic development player in this community and in this region. We are restoring floors that have not had people and purposes in many, many decades, and it'll be more co-working spaces that we offer for small businesses and nonprofits. It'll be more spaces for training and development, and also some use for our own community in events and receptions, and offer something that is unique overlooking the city in a 1914 neoclassical building that has more of a modern purpose to it today. And so literally we got the construction sign downstairs promoting
Ready to go.
the project through a federal government grant, the EDA grant, but also a large portion paid by the building owner, the Watermark Auto Group Foundation. So it's a huge investment that is not just a seasonal thing, but it's a generational development for this community. I'm excited about it. I'm excited that I'm still around and get to play a part in this. And that's going to start here in December and January. And the date on paper is to finish by November of 2025. And so we'll open the doors to those new spaces and maybe open some of those spaces even before then.
I think the construction tagline is people and purpose over pigeons.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, there's a story about those pigeons too. That was one of my first primary roles, was to remove the pigeons from the buildings. So, yeah, it is exciting. It is
awesome.
a lot of space to be used, and because of its location, it's not a whole lot of marketing to do when you have a location like this. I realize other people have to really invest and do great things with marketing. We're right here on the square, so I'm excited about letting more people into more spaces. One of the most exciting things about the construction is that 1914 Otis elevator that we have in the building. Anybody who's come up to EThOs knows that it's a bit of a climb. I always say that, to the road to success is taking the stairs, not the elevator. But we're going to have that elevator functional. It is not being replaced, it is being restored. So it's turned it into from a manual operator, where an operator had to be trained to use it. It's now going to be an automatic, but still have some of those antique finishes in it, and all the safety for an elevator. So I was looking at numbers today from our architect. We're looking at putting up to 200 people on the 5th floor for events.
Wow.
Using a whole floor for co-working spaces and other small group event space on the 4th floor, and then having private offices for entrepreneurs overlooking the square again. So just would love to have a lot of people using this building.
So much to be proud of, and so inspiring as we bring guests in, as you mentioned, even from outside the Marion area. They come downtown, they see all the great work that's been done, how beautiful it is, the music playing outside, and then EThOs, right? And they're so inspired to take these ideas back to their own communities and how they can grow their own communities.
Yeah.
So much to be proud of.
And 2025 seems like the year of fruition.
Yeah, that
Love
is
that.
awesome. Well,
Love it.
2 entrepreneurs that we interviewed very early, I think they were our 3rd or 4th show, was Troy and Katie Karcher. And so that is part of like planting seeds, because they planned on developing a new restaurant here on the square, Seasoning Bistro, and moving from their current restaurant in Benton, Illinois. And that has taken some time, to do with the restoration of a historical downtown building. But what I hear is that in less than a month, in January of 2025, they're hoping to open their doors to a brand new restaurant right next door to our location here.
Great addition.
We'll have to interview them again now.
Yes.
Yep. And then there's another venue here on the square that will hopefully be open in 2025. Can you tell us about that?
So, former City Hall, which would be in the southeast quadrant, if you will, is being reimagined by Chris from Route 51 Brewing and his investor, Dave Finley. And the name, I think, is official at this point. Unless something changes, we'll have Grain and Groove here on
Love
the
that
square.
name.
I love it. And the street level will be a brewery with a restaurant, which we always like to have more lunch options here. The lower level or basement will be an event space. And if all goes well, stay tuned for another surprise. Maybe Maybe on the roof.
So bottom line, more to come.
There is more to come.
More to come.
That is exciting. Well, I just want to point out again that we can't do what we do without some support. And I just want to shout out to our families because I think they're very important. So you want to start? You got somebody you want to thank from your friends and family list? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, of course. My husband and daughters and their people are super patient, and with the exception of when the business card custom comes out of the bag as I'm inviting somebody to come do business here in town. But otherwise, they pretty much endorse and tolerate what I do.
There you go. I love it. I want to thank my wife, Rocio, and what she does in our community as a multilingual Hispanic pastor in this community, Churros and Chocolate Ministry. We share that together, and she shares in my work here too. And so that's exciting. 2 young boys that I've seen grow in the last 2 or 3 years that we've mentioned and become part of the community. Joshua, who's 11, and David, who just turned 16 and still hopes to get that car here in the near future. But they're both gifted and talented. And of course, my dog Truman, our golden retriever. I forgot to bring a picture of Truman. Can you put that in somewhere? Okay, we'll do that.
Well, and I just would love to give a shout out to my husband, Mike, who is retired now and enjoying that retirement. But, there's nothing I have done throughout my career that I could have done without his support and his help for sure. So I lead a very, very busy schedule, as we all do, but he's always there. He's always the safe place to land, the listening ear, all the things. So thank you to Mike and my son Travis, who is in Colorado now, but we'll see if we can lure him back this way. I keep trying.
There you go.
But even just to visit.
Yeah.
But he's fantastic. So
Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah. So more to come in 2025?
More to come. I'm excited about the new entrepreneurs that, we've interviewed quite a few, but I can still make a list in my mind of those that I want in the show in 2025. I think it's time to interview our mayor again. He was our very first show 2.5 years ago. So it's time to have Mayor Mike Absher back on the show too.
And if our listeners have ideas, they should let us know too, because we have all kinds of hidden gems that do not need to remain hidden.
Yeah, and that's easy to do. So you can reach out to me, and it's russell@watermarkethos.org. And yes, we would love to have suggestions of those that people want to see on the show, even if it's themselves that they're suggesting and nominating. We've had that before. Shout out to our listeners and subscribers too. Constantly, I have people say, I listen to your show when I've got like 3 hours to drive in my car, and then I get on a podcast platform, or I go to this, the YouTube channel and watch the episodes. And I don't know about you guys, but I meet people all the time that know me, and I'm like, I don't know. My brain, did I forget this person? And then once we start talking, they're like, oh, well, because you interviewed so-and-so. They know me because of another interview, and then they know what we do and who I am, and so that's pretty cool. I love that.
And I love the idea of listeners being able to provide some ideas, because we have a pretty broad, reach and scope, but it's also limited. We don't know every single business, and whether it's right here in Marion or kind of the surrounding area. As a sneak peek, we have our first industrial automation guest coming in 2025. It's actually a mother-daughter, so there's lots of good tips about families working together and all of that. But really, those women working in a very male-dominated world. But that company is just it's outside of Marion, but in Chester, so still in Southern Illinois, but a little ways away. And they do business worldwide. So talk about small town, big business. We have some firsts coming up.
Yeah.
And we'd love to see more.
You also mentioned anniversary of the wine trail.
Yes. And 30th anniversary of the Shawnee Hills Wine Trail. So.
And interviewing.
Yes. I think that would be fantastic. Yeah. I mean, even, diving into those businesses, but hearing that backstory of how that got started, 30 years ago, and the people that had the idea to plant vineyards and start what a single winery that we now know as the Shawnee Hills Wine Trail that attracts millions of visitors every year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I don't want to rush us, but we should definitely say thanks to our sponsors.
Yes.
So we couldn't be here today in this space and do this without Arcadia Wealth Group, Banterra Bank, Black Diamond Harley-Davidson and RV, Fowler Heating and Cooling, Southern Illinois Now, Swinford Media Group, Union Street Arts, and the Watermark Auto Group Foundation.
Yeah, we want to wish you a great 2025 and holiday season, and especially our guests and our subscribers and those that follow the Small Town Big Business podcast. Thank you so much for a whole year of listening and learning as we have about our small towns and in these small communities throughout our region. We're just so privileged to do this again, and thank you for helping us do it. I'm Russell Williams. I'm director of EThOs, Small Business Incubator here in downtown Marion, Illinois.
And I'm Deb Barnett with Southern Illinois Now, and you can find us at southernillinoisnow.org.
And I'm Jennifer Olson, Director of Business Development at the City of Marion. I'm located at City Hall. My contact information is on LinkedIn, and I hope all of the seeds that you planted bear fruit this year. Thanks.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, have a great day.